What if events went differently in Spider-Man No Way Home and Spider-Man Far From Home? What if Spider-Man had never revealed his identity? What if his identity was always kept a secret at the end of Far From Home, during the biggest twist in cinema history? Now, in this What If, I will be going over what I think would have happened, and I do want to say thank you so much for enjoying the content recently. We're always posting. I have a brand new schedule that is on my Instagram, so if you guys are wondering when I'm posting, what I'm posting, and when content is coming out, you can see it in the nick of time on my Instagram. I do want to say, do make sure to follow my Reddit, make sure to follow my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere in between, so you're all up to date with the latest content. And thank you so much, my fellow watchers, for the amazing support as we continue to grow this channel. But that being said, let's dive in to the brand new Marvel's What If episode. In other realities, after Mysterio's death, he frames up Spider-Man and reveals his identity to the entire world. However, this is not a canon event, and it does not take place in every other reality. In this reality, during the events of Mysterio coming out as a superhero, Spider-Man unknowingly saves his co-worker, Adam. It was Adam who sent the edited and framed up photo of Spider-Man's identity to J. Jonah Jameson, live on TV. Because of this kind act of Spider-Man saving him, Adam has changed his mind. He has a change of heart at the end of the day, and he does not close Peter Parker's identity. He, however, destroys the tape and goes incognito mode. Location: Tower Bridge. Peter was currently facing off with Mysterio, and unlike before, he was winning. This was because he had gotten unattuned to his Spidey sense. The last time that he fought with Mysterio, he almost died, but now it was the illusionist that was on his last legs. Peter would have to admit, though, Edith made Mysterio quite a formidable foe, and his drive for revenge was quite strong. Peter secretly re-amended Tony in his mind for firing Quentin Beck and his entire department, because if he hadn't, then this fight would have never existed. As a last-ditch effort, Mysterio fired at Peter from drones clouded by Edith's illusions, but he was prepared. Peter Parker dodged all of them, and like a cat, he landed on his feet. Mysterio, on the other hand, was not so lucky, as the bullets caught him. He was going to die soon, and Peter doubted that he would go to where all dogs go, heaven, as he had committed quite an amount of crimes. Maybe he thought that he was going to hell, but it didn't matter. Quentin Beck also knew that he was going to die soon, but he had a nasty backup plan. He was going to frame Peter for all of the attacks and reveal his secret identity to the world. Mysterio's ultimate objective was to go out as a hero that was loved by everybody. You'll see, Peter. People, they need to believe, and nowadays, they'll believe anything, Mysterio said with a smirk as he passed away. Peter truly never understood what he meant, as the video never got out. Location: the city. Spider-Man was currently swinging through the city, and he was loving it. One would have thought that he would have gotten used to the feeling, but Peter still loved the rush of the wind on his face and the thrill. The only person that loved swinging more than he did was Mary Jane, was MJ, but currently she was not with him. Things have been going pretty well for Peter since Mysterio's incident, and he could not have asked for a better life. Soon, he and the gang would be going to college, and Peter was very excited. Nothing can ruin his perfect life again, Peter thought, but he immediately smacked his head when he did. I have just jinxed it, Peter said in his mind, as he thought to himself. What Peter did not know, however, was that he was absolutely right. Peter had just jinxed his good life. In a matter of hours, Peter's life would do a complete turn, and he would be left in shambles. Aunt May was tired out, but she could not complain. She ran a shelter, and she almost loved her job, but it could get very draining at feast. Tonight was one of those nights, and she was completely drained. Aunt May had called Happy Hogan to come pick her up, but he was running late, so she decided to use a cab instead. Aunt May started walking down the street to look for a cab, but it wasn't after several moments that she realized how deserted the streets were. She quickly looked at her phone, and she discovered that she had actually closed very late. Aunt May felt a pang of fear that her life could actually be in danger, but she instantly brushed it off with a nervous giggle. Her nephew was Spider-Man, and she thought that no danger would ever come to her, Aunt May said in her heart. However, immediately she said this, Aunt May discovered a particular group of boys harassing a young lady. Without thinking of her own safety, Aunt May literally flew in to help the lady, with a courage that could only be possessed by someone with super backing. Aunt May faced the gang members off. She told them to back off and find another victim, and it actually worked for a while. The gang members were just surprised and shocked at her boldness for some seconds, but they immediately regained their composition. They immediately told her to keep moving or she would regret it, but Aunt May stood her ground. Aunt May was a mother, and she knew that these criminals were just less privileged in life. Aunt May knew that with the right upbringing and guidance, they could become helping members of society. What Aunt May did not realize, however, was that these set of criminals did not want to be helped. They were living their best lives. Aunt May did not know when the first bullet penetrated her frail body. She just heard a gun go off and saw the smoke coming out of its mouth. But still, she didn't feel anything. It was only when she looked down at her body and saw a rapidly spreading red dot. And it was starting to form quickly as the pain kicked in. Aunt May's knees quickly failed and she fell on the bare ground. When she wanted to scream in pain, no sound came out, only blood. The gang members suddenly realized what had transpired, and they all looked with terror across their faces. They immediately scattered like birds and scrambled down the alleyways, while Aunt May lied on the floor bleeding out. The other woman, whom Aunt May saved suddenly, recovered from her shock and started screaming for help. People started gathering, and Spider-Man, who heard the sound of a gun going off, was on his way to the source. While swinging to the location of the gunshot, Spider-Man saw some suspicious guys running in the opposite direction, but he didn't think much of it. However, as Peter approached the location of the shot, he discovered that it was quite close to Aunt May's workplace, and chills began to go down his spine. Peter's brain quickly helped him cool the whole situation, as it informed him that it was already hours after Aunt May's closing time, and besides, Happy would have picked her up. After this, Peter's heart rate got calmer, but he still had fear. As he reached the location, he could not make out who the figure was because of the crowd, but he figured that it was a woman because of the future. This observation then brought back Peter's fear. Within his heartbeat rapidly increasing, Peter made his way through the crowd to see the victim. Peter noticed that the victim's hair was very similar to Aunt May's hair, but he dismissed it. He also noticed that the dress the victim wore was Aunt May's favorite dress, but Peter played it off to coincidence. It was only when Peter reached the body and looked at the dead face of Aunt May that he could not deny it any longer. Aunt May was dead, and Peter felt an extreme amount of rage and guilt come upon him. Location: cemetery. Peter had still not recovered from the death of Aunt May. To be honest, Peter did not think that he would ever recover. This was why a dark plan was currently forming in Peter's head. Happy immediately placed his hand on Peter's shoulder, but he quickly shrugged it off. Peter was still very angry at Happy because of what happened to Aunt May. Peter believed that if Happy had come to pick her up earlier, then she wouldn't have encountered the thugs and gotten murdered. Happy looked at Peter with extreme sadness and guilt in his eyes, but he was not moved. Peter simply told Happy that he hated him and that there was nothing he could ever do to redeem himself. To the shock of MJ and Ned, who were at the funeral, as they hadn't seen this side of Peter. After making the statement, Parker then proceeded to exit the funeral site. He had a plan to bring back Aunt May. There was no way that she could just leave like that. Peter was going to bring her back, and he knew just the person who could do it. Location: New York Sanctum. Peter was at the front of Doctor Strange's house, but before he could even knock, the door opened. Peter was suddenly inside a chamber, and facing him was Doctor Strange. This sudden action frightened even Peter, and he jumped back. This actually made Steven smile. He then stated how it was good to see Peter after such a long time, after they both defeated Thanos. He then commended Peter for his actions during the Thanos incident. Strange even told Peter to call him Steven because he had earned it, and this gladdened Parker. Peter Parker then explained to Doctor Strange that he came around to ask for a favor. Steven was actually surprised, but told Parker that he would do anything for him because of his aid during Thanos' invasion. Strange actually grinned when he made the promise to Peter, but once he had actually heard of what he wanted, his grin diminished to a look of total shock and surprise. Steven told Peter that what he wanted was not possible, that it was too taboo. Peter stated that he was prepared for it because he wanted to get Aunt May back, and he would do anything for it. Doctor Strange then told Peter that doing so could break the barriers between their dimension and possibly other dimensions. Peter looked so downcast after hearing this, and stated that he understood. Peter wanted Doctor Strange to bring back Aunt May. After seeing Peter's moppy and frustrated face, Doctor Strange, then Steven had compassion on him. This compassion made Steven make his next sentence. His decision would be the turning point of their own universe. "I know a way I can help," Strange said. His eyes brightened up. Doctor Strange had promised Peter that he would help him view the last day of Aunt May if he would bring him closure. Peter excitedly accepted, and Doctor Strange started the spell. When he was done, he told Peter to say what he wanted, and the web slinger couldn't help it. He blurted out that he wanted Aunt May to be back, and this caused the entire building to shake as the spell started to actually take effect. "What have you done?" Doctor Strange screamed. Before he could decide on what to do, Aunt May materialized in front of Peter, and he knew just one thing: he could not lose her again. This resulted in a fight that Peter won. He outsmarted Doctor Strange and left him in the mirror dimension without his sling ring, which he threw at the corner of the room. Location: Happy's home. It had been a few days since Aunt May was brought back to life, and nothing happened to their world except a breach between it and others. Villains from other dimensions were currently roaming their Earth. Peter had a run-in with one of them, the Green Goblin, and he bested him to the point of him gliding away. However, what Peter did not know was that the Goblin planted a tracker on his suit. Aunt May had come back to life, and Peter was happy, even though Doctor Strange had warned him of the consequences of his actions. he decided to spend a little time with Aunt May first. Doctor Strange told him that Aunt May had been erased from their universe in order to maintain the breach in time. Peter's heart was broken because he knew that he would lose her for the second time. Happy, on the other hand, was still surprised and shocked. He had immediately asked Peter what he had done, but the web-slinger paid him no mind. Parker even questioned in his heart whether Happy even truly loved Aunt May. As if Happy knew he was going on in Peter's mind, he pulled him aside and explained himself to him. Happy told Peter that he loved May with all of his heart, but she was now dead, and he was trying to move on. Happy told Peter that bringing her back would only complicate things, since they would have to lose her again. Peter's sense of reasoning immediately became blinded by rage, but as he was about to lash out at Happy, they heard a scream of pure terror from the living room. They immediately rushed out, and when they got there, it was not pretty. Aunt May laid on the floor, dead. Peter quickly observed the entire surroundings, and he quickly got an answer. Hovering above Aunt May's dead body was Green Goblin. Peter had seen him over the news, and now it seemed like he had found Peter, and he killed Aunt May. Peter felt something in him completely snap, and he immediately rushed to face Green Goblin one-on-one. Peter smashed into him, and they both tumbled out of the building through the gaping hole that Green Goblin had created on his entrance. Peter punched and punched at Green Goblin, who was cackling as if there was no effect on him. He continued chiding Peter to try harder. His statement seemed to make Peter more rageful, as he kicked Green Goblin to accelerate his fall to the road, while he hung onto his web. Green Goblin escaped the fall by an inch, as his glider aided him, but he did not escape Peter, as Spider-Man landed on top of him, ripping out his helmet. Spider-Man then proceeded to slam his head into the wall of a nearby building repeatedly. The Goblin started bleeding, and Green Goblin suddenly blew up a pumpkin bomb in Peter's face to escape his demise, and it worked. Although Peter swatted it aside, it startled him enough to realize Green Goblin. Green Goblin stumbled away as he called his glider to him. There was something in his eyes, it was fear. The Goblin made it his life's work to break Peter Parker. It wasn't successful the first time in his own universe, but now, in this universe, he finally broke Peter. However, the result of this experiment was much more dire than he ever expected, and so he was now scared of death. The Green Goblin was now scared of the monster he had created, and he wanted to run away. Peter, however, had other plans. As the glider flew to Green Goblin, Peter snagged it with his web and broke it into two halves with his bare hands. The Green Goblin was shocked, and he was now not sure of his fate, as Peter slowly approached him with his torn glider. The Green Goblin was now tired and weary from too much bleeding, so he stumbled and begged for mercy. Surely there was no way that Spider-Man would take the law into his own hands. The Green Goblin said in his mind, but he could never be more than wrong. Spider-Man used half of Goblin's glider and impaled him to the road. Green Goblin's eyes had the emotions of immense pain and shock. He had broken Peter more than he ever expected, and now he had to pay for it. However, the fact that Peter Parker's moral standard had finally been broken by him gave the Goblin some kind of joy. With a final cackle, he let out his final breath. Location: New York Sanctum. Wong and MJ had managed to locate where Doctor Strange resided, but they still had not found him. They knew that they had to get him out very fast in order for him to stop Peter. Peter Parker had completely lost it. He now hunted the villains, that had escaped into their universe, and he killed them in cold blood. It was as if his moral compass had been completely altered. MJ and Ned did not believe it at first, until Happy explained everything to them. Happy told them that Aunt May was murdered again by the Green Goblin, and this was what set Peter off. Ned and MJ knew that Doctor Strange was capable of stopping Peter, and that's what they wanted to happen. After searching the sanctum, they did not discover anything but a room where it looked like a fight had occurred. MJ and Ned then concluded that the room must have been where Peter and Doctor Strange had fought. In one corner of the room, something very little glittered. If Ned had not searched very carefully, he might have missed it. Ned then approached the object and discovered that it was a ring. Ned, out of curiosity, then put the ring in his fingers, while MJ told him to stop messing around. Ned then told her that he was not. "This is my magical lair, MJ. What if this is a magic wishing ring?" Ned asked her, but MJ rolled her eyes. Just to prove his point, Ned started rotating the ring in a clockwise position, while he chanted some orders in a funny voice. "Give us the good, Peter," Ned said to the ring. And to MJ's surprise, a portal started forming. Ned exclaimed, as if he was more surprised of two, but MJ urged him to continue going. The portal opened and a web slinger jumped in. However, it was not their Peter Parker. Standing before them was the Peter whose world Green Goblin came from. Now it was MJ's turn to scream. Peter Parker, however, tried to calm them down. He explained to them that he was Spider-Man, but they were having none of it. Peter then proceeded to shoot webs from his bare wrists, and they believed him. He explained to them that he had his own universe. Then suddenly he was there. He had been in their universe for a long time, and it was dreadful, because he did not have anywhere to go. Ned and MJ then explained everything to him. While they did this, they then formed a plan to get Peter to subdue their own Peter, so that he could regain his senses. In order to avoid any confusion, Ned decided that he would call this new Peter, Peter 1. While MJ continued briefing him, Ned decided to try out the ring again. "Give me the good Spider-Man," Ned whispered, as he rotated his ring clockwise and the portal started opening again. MJ now got annoyed and asked Ned what he thought he was doing, but it was already too late to do anything, as another Spider-Man flinged through the portal. After they heard their own side of the story, they decided that he was clear, and sang the truth. Ned then called the new Peter Parker Peter 2. They started drafting a plan on how to subdue Peter, and remind him of who he truly was. MJ quickly snatched the ring away from him, because of the whole thing was so freaky for her liking. After drafting the whole plan, they realized that they still needed Doctor Strange's help. After a lot of persuasion, MJ was convinced into giving the ring back to Ned, and he did his magic, literally. A portal was opened and Doctor Strange was dumped on the floor. Doctor Strange had explained everything to them. Peter had messed up the spell and caused Aunt May to be brought back to life. This, of course, did not come for free, and the whole multiverse was suffering because of it. Strange explained that the more Aunt May lived, the more the fence between their universe and others would be broken, that would possibly cause an incursion. This would then lead to the appearance of people from other worlds, and the ultimate destruction of reality itself. It was at this point that MJ and Ned informed Doctor Strange that Aunt May was dead. When asked for the cause of her death, they told him the truth. She was killed by the Green Goblin. It was at this point that Doctor Strange and the two Peters understood why Peter suddenly started killing villains. He was broken out of grief and rage. They then decided to put an end to this matter. Strange then stated that even though Aunt May was no more, the presence of alien characters in their universe would widen the wound Peter 1 and Peter 2 said. That they understood, and together they moved out quickly. MJ and Ned wanted in, but Doctor Strange told them that they had already done more than enough, and because of them, Peter and their universe would be saved. And with that, Strange opened a portal, and they exited. Location: Statue of Liberty. Doctor Strange had stated that all he needed to have was all of the villains in a particular area for him, to send them all home. This was why they celebrated when they saw that all of them had ambushed Peter. This was after they discovered that he was hell-bent on killing all of them. After killing Green Goblin, Peter went to eliminate the Green Reptile, aka Dr. Connors, and he almost did, if not for his regenerative abilities. Peter thought that he died when he left him, but he had not. After Peter had left, he regenerated and got all the band of villains together. After they all met, they discovered that they all came from different universes, and they all died there. This then made them resolve to kill Peter, in order to stay at the universe and be gods, because they did not want to die. Fortunately for Doctor Strange and the two Peters, this was the day they set out to subdue Peter. Their bait was Electro, as he drained the electricity from the city to gain Peter's attention, and it worked. He swung in and thought it was business as usual, but he couldn't have been more wrong. Doc Ock, Sandman, Electro, and Lizard all pounced on him, and within moments, he was subdued. Peter put up a good fight though, the use of his Spidey sense, but in the end, he could not keep up with 4 of them. Lizard said that they would reserve the honor of killing Peter for him, and there was no argument. His plan was to bite his neck off, a swift and merciful death, for someone who almost killed him, but he did not want to take chances. After steadying his head, the Lizard brought his claws to Peter's neck at his height. Suddenly, Lizard's claws were stopped by a web, and this confused them. Within a few moments, they realized that their respective Spider-Man had also followed them to this world. After realizing this, they all entered into a battle with the 2 of them. With Doctor Strange's help, they were able to defeat all of them, and Doctor Strange did the spell, sending them back to their respective universes. However, before they left, Peter 1 and Peter 2 had some words for the MCU Peter Parker. Peter 1 told him that Aunt May would never have wanted this, that he had to suffer loss. It is the destiny of all Spider-Men to lose people close to them, he said. What matters is how you deal with the pain, he said, as he entered into the portal back home. Peter 2 told Peter that he doesn't have any idea of how blessed he is, that he still had MJ and his best friend. Don't be so blinded by your tragic past that you don't realize what it is in the present and in the possible future, he said. As Peter bursted out in tears, Peter Parker was now broken again, but in a positive way. Doctor Strange had sent back all of the alien bodies, and now the void was mended. Peter was now alone with the Master of Mystic Arts, and he was now realizing the great evil he had done. After analysing what he had done, he told them that Strange, that he had deserved to be locked up, and he wanted to be. Doctor Strange wanted to go hard on Peter Parker, but seeing him in this state weakened his resolve. In the end, you're still a kid, Peter. That's what I failed to realize the first time. Doctor Strange told Peter as he opened up a portal directly below him. The world has been saved from the imminent destruction, and the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was locked up like any ordinary criminal. Just another average adventure in my view, Doctor Strange said, as he signed. And that is going to be it for this incredible Marvel's What If fanfiction. Thank you so much for tuning in to the content recently. We've been posting full time. We've been trying to post full time. Depending on when you're seeing this particular video, we're either starting it up or we have already done it. And I do want to say that it's gonna be crazy. We're doing so many different series on this channel. I would highly recommend, if you're a fan of any of this type of content, do make make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. With that being said, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, thank you so much for tuning in and have a fantastic day. Peace out.